I mentioned quite a bit now primary versus secondary doctrine. So primary doctrine is an essential teaching that one is required to believe if they intend to call themselves Christians. So for example, those who deny the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ should probably question whether or not they are Christians. This is an essential doctrine. Jesus rose from the dead. As Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15:14, and if Christ is not risen, then our preaching is empty and your faith is also empty. So we can see that obviously the resurrection is a very primary doctrine in Christianity, and to deny it might mean that you are not in fellowship with all right believing Christians. A secondary doctrine, however, is a teaching that you may hold as important. I'm not denying that you won't think that some of your secondary doctrines are important. They are. But they're not essential in order to call yourself a Christian. So for example, the rapture is a very popular secondary doctrine these days. Some churches believe that all Christians will be raptured out of the world before the period of the tribulation, while other Christians who believe that those who are still alive at the time of the tribulation, they will have to actually patiently and faithfully endure the tribulation. Now, while churches will think it's important which side of the aisle you fall on that, it shouldn't break our fellowship if we disagree about the rapture. You know, if you believe in the rapture and I don't, this shouldn't cause us to break fellowship. We should still see each other as brothers and sisters. We can debate these issues. We could try to convince each other through reason and through scripture. But in the end, if we disagree, we should still consider ourselves brothers and sisters in Christ. So I mentioned the 7 ecumenical councils. There's a difference between ecumenical councils and an ordinary local council. So there's only 7 generally accepted by most churches are 7 ecumenical councils, although the Catholic Church has 8 ecumenical councils, but the 8th one doesn't really count as ecumenical council because only Catholic leaders attended that. No other church did. It was post-schism. So prior to the schism, there were 7 ecumenical councils. There were countless local councils. So how that works is we're going to take a look at the first 2 ecumenical councils a little more closely. But how it works, whenever there's any doctrinal controversy, the church would call together a local council. So for example, if we were in New Jersey here, and there was some sort of like doctrinal controversy going on, the leaders in New Jersey could call for a local council in which all local New Jersey pastors or theologians would attend, and we would discuss and prayerfully discuss and whatever this doctrinal issue was, and then we'd issue a statement at the end saying what the stance of the church was. However, if and when those local church councils failed to address those issues adequately, or those issues began to spill over outside the local region and affect the whole church at large, then the church would call together what was known as an ecumenical council. And this would call together leaders from churches worldwide. Now, of course, in this era that we're talking about, in the 4th century, worldwide meant something very different than it means today, because the Christian world was primarily located, in Europe and Africa and the Middle East. So there was no, American church, there were no Asian churches, there were no Russian churches, there were some churches in some of the Balkan states, but not very many. So an ecumenical council basically meant the worldwide churches as they existed at that time. These councils would then issue statements at the close, which would become doctrinal statements of faith that spelled out what a Christian should believe. In the 4th century, a great controversy developed in the church about the person and nature of the Son of God, Jesus Christ. Some church leaders said that the Son of God was a created being, just like human beings and angels. And others contended that the Son of God is eternal, divine, and uncreated. Some said that he was lesser than the Father. Others said he was equal to the Father. Some said that he was divine but not human. Others said he was human but not divine. So there was all sorts of controversy swirling around about the person and nature of Jesus Christ. Several local councils met and made many statements of faith about the nature of the Son of God, but the controversy eventually ended up raging throughout the known Christian world, so an ecumenical council had to be called. And in 325, we get the first post-apostolic council, which was called in the city of Nicaea. So we say that this is the first ecumenical council, but actually that's not really accurate, because the first ecumenical council occurs in the book of Acts, which was called regarding the requirements for Gentile converts. But historically, this is known as the First Ecumenical Council, so we'll stick with that. It was in 325 in Nicaea. At this council, leaders from various churches prayerfully studied the scripture and formulated a statement of faith, which makes up what we now call the Nicene Creed. So at the Council of Nicaea, the first half of what we call today the Nicene Creed was issued as a statement at the end. Okay, and it reads, "We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible. And in one Lord Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the only begotten, begotten of the Father before all ages, light of light, true God of true God, begotten, not made, of one essence with the Father, by whom all things are made, who for us men and for our salvation came down from the heaven and was incarnate of the Holy Spirit and the Virgin Mary and became man. And he was crucified for us under Pontius Pilate and suffered and was buried. And the third day he rose again according to the scriptures and ascended into the heaven and sits at the right hand of the Father. And he shall come again with glory to judge the living and the dead, whose kingdom shall have no end." So here we see is basically, in some ways, a summary of the Gospels, but it also makes some very important declarative statements about primary doctrines, who Jesus Christ is and what we were to believe about him.